The sound of my wife snorting with disgust still echoes in my head 3 days later as I spread the divorce papers across our kitchen table like a winning poker hand. "I've been thinking about divorce for a long time," Talia had said, not even looking up from her phone while I stood there holding takeout from her favorite Thai place. "I'm tired of you." That snort, like I was something stuck to her shoe. "My name is Jordan Wells, and I own Wells Commercial Cleaning. Nothing glamorous. We clean office buildings, strip malls, the occasional restaurant after health code violations. It's honest work that built us a decent life in this faded Ohio town where the steel mills closed 20 years ago and never came back. Our house sits in one of the better neighborhoods, a 1920s colonial with the kind of character Talia used to love before she decided I wasn't good enough anymore. Talia Wells, my wife of 16 years, runs an interior design business called Elevated Spaces. She started it 5 years ago when our daughter Gina hit middle school and Talia got bored being a stay-at-home mom. What began as helping neighbors pick paint colors evolved into a boutique firm catering to the town's emerging professional class, young lawyers, doctors, real estate developers who moved here for cheaper living but wanted big city sophistication. That's where the problem started. Talia began spending more time with clients than family, attending networking events, staying late at her downtown studio. She'd come home talking about elevated aesthetics and curated experiences, like she was reinventing art itself. Meanwhile, I'd be in my work clothes, smelling like industrial cleaner, listening to her describe wine tastings with people who had vision. "You just don't understand the creative process," she'd say when I suggested family dinners or weekend trips. "I'm building something important here." The eye-rolling started about 2 years ago. Subtle at first, a quick expression when I'd suggest watching a movie together or mention a funny story from work. Then it became constant. I'd walk into a room and see her shoulders tense. I'd speak and watch her face shift into barely concealed irritation. "Jordan still thinks Applebee's is fine dining," she told her friend Vivian Drake last month, loud enough for me to hear from the kitchen. They both laughed like I was the punchline to a joke I didn't know I was part of. Vivian Drake. Talia's business partner and best friend, a sharp-featured woman who dresses like she's perpetually heading to a gallery opening. She moved here from Chicago 2 years ago, claiming she wanted to disrupt the local design scene. What she really wanted was to convince my wife that she deserved better than a blue-collar husband who got his hands dirty for a living. "You're settling," I heard Vivian tell Talia during one of their wine-soaked strategy sessions in our living room. "You have so much potential. Don't let anyone hold you back." Anyone, not even my name anymore. The final straw came last Tuesday. I'd worked a 14-hour day cleaning up after a kitchen fire at a downtown restaurant, came home exhausted and covered in soot, hoping for some sympathy, or at least acknowledgement. Instead, I found Talia on the couch, scrolling through Instagram, surrounded by fabric samples and paint chips. "How was your day?" I asked, settling beside her. She didn't look up. "Busy, important, you wouldn't understand. Try me." That's when she snorted, that dismissive, contemptuous sound that told me everything I needed to know about how she saw our marriage. "I've been thinking about divorce for a long time. I'm tired of you." Just like that. 16 years, a daughter, a life we built together. Dismissed with the same tone she'd used to reject a bad color scheme. I stood there holding Thai food that was getting cold, watching my wife scroll past vacation photos from people whose lives she envied, and something clicked into place. Not heartbreak, that had been building for months. Not anger, exactly. More like clarity. "Okay," I said. She looked up then, surprised by my calm response. "Okay? If that's how you feel, then we should talk about next steps." "Oh." She seemed deflated, like she'd expected me to fight or beg. "Well, yes, we should be adults about this. Fair and reasonable." Fair and reasonable. I almost laughed. What Talia didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this conversation for 6 months. Not because I wanted our marriage to end, but because I could see where her new lifestyle was heading. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the way she'd started dressing for work like she was going on dates. I'm not stupid. I clean buildings for a living, which means I notice things others miss. I see the details people try to hide, and I'd been seeing plenty. 3 days later, I'm arranging those divorce papers on our kitchen table, each document placed with the precision I use when organizing cleaning supplies. Everything in its proper place, everything with a purpose. The front door opens and Talia walks in, fresh from another client meeting that ran until 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night. She's wearing a dress I don't recognize, her makeup still perfect despite the late hour. "Jordan?" She stops in the doorway, staring at the papers spread across the table like evidence at a crime scene. "What is this?" "You said you wanted a divorce. I'm giving you what you asked for." She steps closer, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors we refinished together 7 years ago. You can't be serious. I meant we should discuss it. Maybe try counseling first. You said you'd been thinking about it for a long time. You said you were tired of me. What's left to discuss? Talia picks up the top document, her face shifting from confusion to concern as she reads. This is actually filed with the court. Yesterday morning. How dare you? The words explode out of her, loud enough to wake our 15-year-old daughter upstairs. You can't just make this decision unilaterally. I didn't. You made it Tuesday night with that snort. She's scanning the papers now, her designer-trained eye catching details that would make most people's heads spin. Property division, asset allocation, spousal support calculations. Her face goes pale. This says I get nothing. No alimony, no house, no business assets. That can't be legal. I lean against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, watching my wife of 16 years realize that her casual cruelty has consequences. Remember that post-nuptial agreement you signed 3 years ago? The one Vivian said was just paperwork when I wanted to protect the business during expansion? You said it was routine. It was. Routine protection against exactly this scenario. Infidelity voids spousal support. Financial deception voids property claims. Both are documented in here. I tap a manila folder thick with evidence I've been collecting for months. Talia's hands shake as she flips through bank statements showing her secret accounts, credit card bills for hotels I've never seen, receipts for a storage unit rented under her maiden name. Her face cycles through emotions, denial, anger, fear, calculation. You bastard, she whispers. You planned this. I prepared for what seemed inevitable. There's a difference. She throws the papers at me, documents scattering across the floor like autumn leaves. 16 years of marriage, and this is how you treat me, like a business transaction? No, Talia. This is how you treated our marriage. I'm just responding in kind. The kitchen falls silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Gina's music upstairs. My daughter, who looks just like her mother and has inherited the same dismissive attitude toward her old man. Another relationship I'll need to rebuild from scratch. Where am I supposed to go? Talia's voice cracks, the designer confidence crumbling. That's not my problem anymore. You've been planning your exit strategy for months. I'm sure you'll figure something out. The house is mine, purchased before marriage, renovated with business profits, protected by the agreement you signed. My business can't claim assets from a company you never invested in. Your studio lease is in your name. Your debts are your responsibility. Talia stares at me like she's seeing a stranger. Maybe she is. The accommodating husband who tolerated her condescension and enabled her fantasy life is gone. What's left is a businessman who knows the value of preparation and the cost of betrayal. You can't do this to me, she says, but there's no conviction behind it. It's already done. You have 30 days to remove your personal belongings. After that, the locks change. I walk past her toward the stairs, stepping over the scattered divorce papers. Tomorrow I'll move back into the master bedroom I've been avoiding for months. Tonight, I'll sleep in the guest room one last time and plan my next moves. Jordan, Talia calls after me, desperation replacing anger. We can work this out. I didn't mean what I said. I pause at the bottom of the stairs. Hand on the banister I installed myself when we first moved in. Yes, you did. You meant every word. You're just sorry about the consequences. As I climb toward what used to be our bedroom, I can hear Talia crying in the kitchen, probably calling Vivian or whoever else encouraged her to blow up our life. Let them figure out how to put the pieces back together. I've got a business to run and a future to build, one that doesn't include people who think I'm not good enough for their elevated spaces. The next morning brings the first real test of my resolve. I'm in my office at Wells Commercial Cleaning, reviewing schedules and trying to focus on normal business when my phone starts buzzing with text messages. The first one is from Mike Sullivan, my best friend since high school and the guy who helped me start this company 12 years ago. Mike runs Sullivan Construction, and we've always referred business to each other. His message is short and brutal. Heard about you and Talia. Need to talk. The second is from Tom Bradley, who owns Bradley's Sports Bar, where our weekly poker game has been running for 8 years. Jordan, got some concerns about the divorce situation. Call me. The third is from Dave Morrison, my accountant and another member of our tight circle. Talia stopped by this morning. We need to discuss some things. I set the phone down and lean back in my chair, looking out at the warehouse where my crew is loading trucks for the day's routes. 23 employees, 6 vehicles, contracts with 47 businesses across 3 counties. I built this from nothing, starting with a borrowed van and determination to prove that hard work still matters. Now my oldest friends are treating me like I've committed a crime. The office door opens, and my secretary, Linda Martinez, peeks in. Linda's been with me for 5 years, a divorced mother of 2 who understands the value of steady work and honest employers. Jordan, Mike Sullivan is here. Says it's urgent. Send him in. Mike walks into my office like he's attending a funeral, his usual easy smile replaced by grim determination. We've been through everything together. High school football, failed dates, business struggles, family celebrations. He was my best man. I was his. Our kids grew up together. Sit down, Mike. He remains standing, hands shoved deep in his pockets. What the hell are you doing, Jordan? Running my business. Same as always. Don't play dumb. Talia came to see Jennifer last night, crying her eyes out. Said you blindsided her with divorce papers and left her with nothing. Jennifer is Mike's wife, a sweet woman who's always gotten along well with Talia. They're in the same book club, volunteer together at school events, share the kind of female friendship that makes men feel slightly excluded and grateful at the same time. Talia told me she wanted a divorce. I gave her one. Come on, man. She was venting, not filing paperwork. Married couples fight. They don't lawyer up and destroy each other. I lean forward, elbows on my desk. What exactly did she tell Jennifer? Mike shifts uncomfortably. That you've been controlling and suspicious. That you hired someone to spy on her. That you're using the business to hide assets and screw her out of what she deserves. And you believe that? I don't know what to believe. The Jordan I know doesn't ambush his wife with legal documents. The Jordan I know talks things through. The Jordan you know tried talking for 2 years while his wife made it clear she was embarrassed by him. The Jordan you know finally got tired of being treated like an inconvenience in his own home. So you destroy her life? Jesus, Jordan, she's Gina's mother. She destroyed her own life. I just documented it. Mike finally sits down, rubbing his face with both hands. Jennifer wants me to cut business ties with you, says she can't be friends with someone who treats women like this. There it is, the first domino falling. What do you want to do, Mike? I want my friend back. The guy who coached Little League with me, the guy who helped me through my dad's cancer. Not this cold stranger who talks about his wife like she's a business competitor. That guy was a sucker who let people walk all over him because he was afraid of conflict. Maybe it's time you met the real me. Mike stands up abruptly. If this is the real you, I don't like him much. After he leaves, I sit in the quiet office and feel the first crack in the foundation I thought was solid. Mike and I have been friends for 25 years. We've survived everything from teenage stupidity to adult responsibilities. But apparently, we can't survive me refusing to be a victim. The phone rings. Tom Bradley. Jordan, we need to talk. Can you come by the bar? I'm working, Tom. This can't wait. Trust me. Bradley's Sports Bar sits on the edge of downtown, a neighborhood institution that survived the economic collapse by adapting to changing times. Tom bought it from his father 10 years ago and turned it into the kind of place where local businessmen grab lunch and families come for dinner. The back room hosts our poker games, chamber of commerce meetings, and informal networking sessions that keep this town's economy moving. I walk in at noon to find Tom behind the bar, polishing glasses with unusual intensity. The lunch crowd is light. A few construction workers, some retirees, a table of women who stop talking when they see me. Office, Tom says without looking up. His office is a cramped space behind the kitchen, filled with invoices, liquor distributors' catalogs, and photos from 20 years of local events. Tom closes the door and crosses his arms. Vivian Drake was here this morning. Of course she was. Talia's business partner and life coach, making the rounds to protect her investment. What did she want? To tell me what kind of man you really are, how you've been psychologically abusing Talia for years, how you're using your business connections to isolate her and destroy her reputation. And you believed her? I don't know what to believe anymore, but I know she had bank statements showing you've been moving money around for months. I know she had photos of Talia with bruises on her arms. My blood goes cold. Bruises? From when you grabbed her during an argument. At least that's what Vivian says. Tom, I have never laid a hand on my wife. Not once, not ever. Then explain the photos. I can't explain what I haven't seen, but I can tell you that Vivian Drake is a liar who's been poisoning my marriage for 2 years. Tom sits down heavily in his desk chair. The poker game is off indefinitely. Dave and Mike agree that we need some space while this gets sorted out. So you're choosing sides. I'm protecting my business. Half my customers are women, Jordan. If word gets around that I'm hosting events for someone who beats his wife. I don't beat my wife. Keep your voice down. Tom glances toward the door. Look, maybe this is all a misunderstanding. Maybe Vivian is lying and Talia is confused and everything will work out. But until it does, I can't afford to be associated with this mess. I stand up, looking at another friendship dissolving in real time. 20 years of knowing me, and you think I'm capable of domestic violence based on photos from someone you met 5 minutes ago. I think people can surprise you. I think divorce brings out the worst in everyone, and I think you should get some help before this gets worse. Walking out of Bradley's feels like leaving a funeral for someone who isn't quite dead yet. The afternoon sun seems too bright, the familiar streets too quiet. I drive back to my office wondering how many other friends are getting visits from Vivian Drake and her carefully curated evidence. Linda looks up when I walk in, her expression sympathetic. Dave Morrison called. He wants to see you at his office at 3. Dave's accounting firm occupies a converted house on Maple Street, the kind of place where local businesses go for tax preparation and financial planning. He's been handling my books for 8 years, ever since his predecessor retired. Smart, methodical, trustworthy, exactly what you want in an accountant. His receptionist, a middle-aged woman named Carol, avoids eye contact when I arrive. Mr. Morrison is waiting for you. Dave's office overlooks a small garden his wife maintains behind the building. Usually, he greets me with coffee and conversation about our kids or the local sports teams. Today, he's all business. Sit down, Jordan. We need to discuss your accounts. What about them? Talia was here this morning with some serious allegations. She claims you've been hiding assets and manipulating financial records to minimize her divorce settlement. Show me. Dave slides a folder across his desk. Inside are copies of bank statements, transfer records, and business documents. All legitimate, all properly documented, all part of the legal asset protection I implemented months ago. Everything here is above board, Dave. You know that. I know the transactions are legal. What concerns me is the timing. Moving money around right before filing for divorce looks suspicious. Moving money around to protect a business from a spouse who's been financially irresponsible looks like good planning. Dave removes his glasses and cleans them slowly. Jordan, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've seen what happens when divorce gets ugly. The accusations, the investigations, the damage to everyone involved. Are you firing me as a client? I'm suggesting you find new representation, someone who specializes in high-conflict divorce cases. This is beyond my expertise. And our friendship? Is complicated right now. My wife knows Talia through the garden club. There are expectations about how I handle this situation. 3 friends lost in one day. 3 relationships sacrificed to protect people who've never bothered to know the real me. I drive home through neighborhoods where I've lived for 16 years, past houses I've been invited to for barbecues and birthday parties, wondering how many other doors are closing while I'm not looking. The divorce papers are still scattered on my kitchen floor where Talia threw them last night. I gather them up, stack them neatly, and place them back on the table. Upstairs, I can hear Gina talking on the phone, her voice carrying the dramatic intensity that 15-year-olds bring to every crisis. She's probably getting her version of events from friends whose mothers got their version from Talia or Vivian. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. This is just the beginning. You have no idea what you've started. V. Vivian Drake, making sure I understand the stakes. I pour myself a beer and sit at the kitchen table, looking at the divorce papers that started this avalanche. Tomorrow I'll need to find a new accountant, probably a new bar for lunch meetings, definitely new friends who don't abandon ship at the first sign of controversy. Tonight, I'll plan my next moves. Because if Vivian wants a war, she's about to discover what happens when you mess with someone who's spent years cleaning up other people's messes. I know how to make things spotless, and I know how to make problems disappear. By Friday morning, I've lost count of how many relationships have been poisoned by Vivian Drake's carefully orchestrated campaign. The dry cleaner, where I've been going for 10 years, suddenly has computer problems when I drop off my shirts. The hardware store owner, usually good for 20 minutes of conversation about local sports, barely acknowledges my presence. Even my barber, a guy who's cut my hair since I moved to this neighborhood, seems uncomfortable making eye contact. Vivian has been busy. I'm reviewing cleaning contracts in my office when Linda buzzes me. Jordan, there's a Jennifer Sullivan here to see you. She says it's important. Mike's wife. This should be interesting. Jennifer walks into my office like she's entering a crime scene, her usual warm demeanor replaced by nervous determination. She's always been the peacemaker in our group, the one who smooths over conflicts and organizes social gatherings. Seeing her this uncomfortable tells me everything I need to know about how far the poison has spread. Hi, Jordan. Thanks for seeing me. Of course. How are you, Jen? She sits down carefully, clutching her purse like a shield. I'm confused, honestly, and worried about everyone involved. Including me? Especially you. She leans forward, studying my face. I've known you for 12 years, Jordan. You coached my son in Little League. You helped us move twice. You've never been anything but kind and respectful to me and every other woman I've seen you interact with. But Talia is my friend too, and she's devastated. She says you've been emotionally abusive for years, that you controlled her money and isolated her from friends. She says she's afraid of what you might do next. I lean back in my chair, fighting the urge to defend myself with the same emotional intensity Talia is using to attack me. Instead, I reach into my desk drawer and pull out a manila folder. Jen, I'm going to show you something, but I need your word that it stays between us until the divorce is final. Jordan, I don't want to get in the middle. You're already in the middle. Vivian Drake made sure of that when she started spreading lies about me beating my wife. Jennifer's eyes widen. She didn't say you beat Talia. She said there were signs of emotional abuse. What about the photos of bruises? What photos? Jennifer looks genuinely confused. I haven't seen any photos. Interesting. Either Tom Bradley lied to me, or Vivian is telling different stories to different people. I make a mental note to follow up on that. I slide the folder across my desk. These are bank statements from Talia's secret accounts. Credit card bills for hotels and restaurants I've never been to. Receipts for a storage unit she rented 6 months ago. Phone records showing hundreds of calls to the same number. Jennifer opens the folder reluctantly, her expression shifting as she reviews the evidence. Oh my God. Jordan, who is she calling? Eric Blaine, real estate broker, fitness enthusiast, recently divorced. He's been helping Talia research properties for the past 8 months. You think she's having an affair? I know she's having an affair. What I don't know is how long Vivian has been planning this whole scenario. Jennifer closes the folder and pushes it back across the desk. This doesn't prove Vivian is involved. Doesn't it? Vivian shows up in our lives 2 years ago, immediately starts telling Talia she deserves better. Suddenly my wife is working late, spending money we don't have, treating me like an embarrassment. Then, conveniently, Vivian introduces her to Eric through a business networking event. That's a lot of assumptions. Maybe, but here's what's not an assumption. I never abused my wife. I never controlled her money. She had access to everything until she started hiding her own accounts. And I never isolated her from friends. She did that herself when she decided we weren't sophisticated enough for her new lifestyle. Jennifer sits quietly for a long moment, processing information that doesn't match the story she's been told. What do you want from me? Nothing. I just want someone to know the truth before it gets buried under more lies. Mike thinks you've changed. He says you're cold and calculating now. Mike is right. I have changed. I got tired of being everyone's doormat. Is that what you think we were doing? Using you? I think you were comfortable with the old dynamic where I absorbed everyone else's problems and never made waves. Now I'm making waves, and suddenly I'm the bad guy. Jennifer stands up, looking older than when she walked in. I need to think about this, and I need to talk to Mike. Tell Mike I miss our friendship, but I won't apologize for protecting myself. After she leaves, I call my new attorney, Sarah Harper, a sharp woman in her 50s who specializes in high-conflict divorce cases. Dave Morrison was right about needing specialized help, even if his motives were questionable. Sarah, it's Jordan Wells. I need to accelerate our timeline. What's happened? My wife's business partner is conducting a character assassination campaign. She's telling people I'm abusive and showing fabricated evidence. I need to get ahead of this before it damages my business. Do you have proof the evidence is fabricated? Not yet, but I know those bruise photos Tom Bradley mentioned are fake. I've never touched my wife in anger. Thus, we need more than your word, Jordan. Can you think of anyone who might have witnessed these alleged incidents? There were no incidents to witness. That's the point. Then we need to prove that. Security cameras, phone records, witness statements placing you elsewhere when the abuse supposedly occurred. Build an alibi for something that never happened. How do I do that? Leave it to me. In the meantime, document everything. Every conversation, every accusation, every person who suddenly treats you differently. We're going to need it all. I spend the rest of the day doing exactly that, creating a detailed timeline of Vivian's campaign and its effects. By evening, I have a clear picture of how efficiently she's isolated me from my support network. The house feels different when I get home. Talia's car is gone, but her presence lingers in the scattered papers and half-packed boxes she's left throughout the rooms. Gina is in the kitchen, making herself a sandwich with the mechanical efficiency of a teenager who's decided all adults are idiots. Hey kiddo, how was school? She doesn't look up. Fine. Want to talk about what's going on? Not really. Gina, I know this is hard. Do you? She finally looks at me, and I see Talia's accusatory expression on our daughter's face. Because it seems like you're handling it just fine. Mom is staying at Aunt Vivian's, crying herself to sleep every night, while you're here acting like nothing happened. Aunt Vivian, when did that relationship develop? Your mother and I have some serious problems that we couldn't work out. Sometimes divorce is the best solution for everyone. Best for you, maybe. Mom says you're trying to leave her homeless. Your mother has options. She's choosing the most dramatic one. God, you're so cold. Gina grabs her sandwich and heads for the stairs. No wonder she doesn't want to be married to you anymore. I stand alone in the kitchen, listening to my daughter's footsteps overhead and wondering how many more relationships I'll lose before this is over. My phone buzzes with another unknown number. Mr. Wells, this is Detective Ray Morrison with the County Sheriff's Department. We need to schedule a time to discuss some allegations that have been made against you. Detective Morrison, probably related to my former accountant Dave Morrison. This town is too small for coincidences. What kind of allegations? Domestic violence, financial abuse, possible stalking. Can you come in Monday morning? I'll be there with my attorney. That's your right, sir. 10 a.m. at the county building. I hang up and pour myself another beer, looking out at the backyard where Gina used to play on the swing set I built when she was 7. Vivian has escalated this from social pressure to criminal accusations. She's not just trying to destroy my reputation, she's trying to destroy my freedom. But she's made one crucial mistake. She's underestimated what happens when you corner someone who's spent years studying how to eliminate problems completely. I pull out my phone and scroll through my contacts until I find the number I'm looking for. Ray Kowalski, an old friend who owns a private investigation firm in the state capital. Ray and I served together in the National Guard 20 years ago, back when we were young men who thought we understood how the world worked. Ray, it's Jordan Wells. I need a favor. Jordan, how the hell are you? Haven't heard from you in years. I'm getting divorced, and my wife's business partner is trying to frame me for domestic violence. I need someone to investigate her background and find out what she's really after. Vivian Drake, right? Already on it. What do you mean, already on it? Got a call from your lawyer this afternoon. Sarah Harper is thorough. I like that in an attorney. We've already started running background checks on Drake and this Eric Blaine character. Find anything interesting? Give me 48 hours. But Jordan, be careful. This woman has done this before. Done what before? Destroyed marriages. I'll have details soon. I hang up feeling something I haven't felt in weeks. Hope. Vivian thinks she's playing chess while I'm playing checkers. She's about to discover that I've been playing a different game entirely. Monday morning can't come soon enough. Monday morning arrives gray and cold, the kind of October weather that makes this part of Ohio feel like the end of the world. I meet Sarah Harper at the county building, a 1960s concrete structure that houses the sheriff's department, family court, and various bureaucratic offices that control the daily miseries of local life. Remember, Sarah says as we walk through the parking lot, answer only what they ask. Don't volunteer information, don't get defensive, and don't let them provoke you into anger. I'm not angry anymore. I'm focused. Good. Focused is better than angry in these situations. Detective Ray Morrison turns out to be Dave Morrison's younger brother, which explains how quickly this investigation materialized. He's a thin man in his 40s with the kind of mustache that went out of style during the Reagan administration. His office smells like stale coffee and bureaucratic resignation. Mr. Wells, thank you for coming in. This is Detective Sarah Chen, who specializes in domestic violence cases. Detective Chen is younger, more intense, with the kind of expression that suggests she's seen too much of humanity's dark side. She studies me like I'm a specimen under a microscope. Mr. Wells, she begins, we've received allegations that you've been physically and emotionally abusing your wife for several years. We'd like to hear your side of the story. There is no story. I've never abused my wife. According to our information, you've been controlling her finances, isolating her from friends, and recently escalated to physical violence. Sarah leans forward. What evidence do you have to support these allegations? Detective Morrison slides a folder across the table. Inside are bank statements, copies of the same documents I showed Jennifer, along with what appear to be photographs of bruises on a woman's arms. These photos were taken last week, Detective Chen says. They show clear evidence of grip marks consistent with forceful grabbing. I study the photos carefully. The bruises are real, but something about them bothers me. The lighting, the angle, the way they're positioned on the arms. When were these allegedly taken? Sarah asks. October 15th, according to the metadata. Where was my client on October 15th? I check my phone calendar. Working. I was at the Riverside office complex from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m., supervising a deep clean after their renovation. I have time cards, security footage, and witness statements from the construction crew. Detective Chen makes notes. You could have caused these injuries earlier. Then why do the metadata say October 15th? The detectives exchange glances. They hadn't expected me to have an alibi for a specific date. Mr. Wells, Detective Morrison says, your wife is afraid of you. She's staying with friends because she doesn't feel safe in her own home. My wife is staying with Vivian Drake, her business partner, who has been encouraging her to leave me for 2 years. This isn't about safety, it's about money and manipulation. That's a serious accusation, Detective Chen says. It's about to get more serious. Sarah pulls out her own folder. Detectives, we've been conducting our own investigation into Ms. Drake's background. The results are illuminating. She slides several documents across the table. Vivian Drake has been married 3 times. All 3 marriages ended in divorce under similar circumstances. In each case, she befriended the wife, convinced her she was being abused or controlled, then helped orchestrate a divorce that left the husband financially devastated. Detective Morrison picks up one of the documents. This is from Illinois. Says here she was investigated for fraud in connection with a divorce case. Charges were dropped when the husband ran out of money for legal fees, Sarah continues. But the pattern is clear. Ms. Drake targets successful men through their wives, creates conflict in the marriage, then profits from the resulting chaos. How does she profit? Detective Chen asks. In this case, she's positioned herself as Mrs. Wells's business partner and primary emotional support. When the divorce settlement comes through, she'll have access to whatever assets Mrs. Wells receives. Plus, she's been having an affair with Eric Blaine, who stands to profit from selling the family home and helping Mrs. Wells relocate. I stare at Sarah. Vivian is sleeping with Eric? Hotel records show they've been meeting regularly for 6 months, the same hotels where your wife thought she was meeting him for business purposes. The room goes quiet as everyone processes this information. Vivian hasn't just been manipulating Talia's marriage, she's been manipulating Talia's affair. This still doesn't explain the bruise photos, Detective Morrison says. Sarah smiles. Actually, it does. We had them analyzed by a digital forensics expert. The metadata has been altered. These photos were actually taken 3 weeks ago, and the location data shows they were taken at Ms. Drake's apartment, not at the Wells home. You're saying the photos are fake? I'm saying they were staged. Ms. Drake created the bruises, photographed them, then altered the digital information to frame my client. Detective Chen leans back in her chair. This is a hell of an accusation, counselor. It's a hell of a fraud, detective, and it gets worse. Sarah pulls out another document. Bank records show that Ms. Drake has been systematically draining the design business accounts. Over the past 6 months, she's transferred nearly $50,000 to personal accounts, in preparation for disappearing once the divorce is final. She's stealing from Talia? She's stealing from everyone. The business, your wife, you, anyone who gets in the way of her exit strategy. Detective Morrison rubs his forehead. So, you're telling me that Mrs. Wells is being manipulated by someone who's planning to rob her blind? That's exactly what I'm telling you. Where is Ms. Drake now? Unknown. She didn't show up for work this morning, and her apartment appears to be empty. The detectives look at each other with the expression of people who realize they've been played. Detective Chen closes her folder and stands up. Mr. Wells, we're going to need you to stay available while we investigate these new allegations. Don't leave town without notifying us. What about the original charges? Suspended pending further investigation. Sarah and I walk out of the county building into the gray afternoon, both of us feeling like we've won a battle but not the war. What happens now? I ask. Now we find your wife and tell her the truth about her best friend. Think she'll believe it? She'll have to. Vivian just disappeared with $50,000 of her money. We drive to Vivian's apartment complex, a modern development on the outskirts of town that caters to young professionals and recent divorcees. The parking lot is nearly empty, and Vivian's unit shows no signs of life. The property manager, a harried woman in her 60s, confirms what we already suspected. Ms. Drake moved out yesterday, paid her lease termination fee in cash, and left no forwarding address. What about her belongings? Took everything, had a moving truck here for 3 hours. Sarah and I exchange looks. Vivian planned this exit carefully, probably triggered by my refusal to be intimidated by her campaign. Where would Talia be staying now? Sarah asks. Probably with her sister in Columbus. They're not close, but it's the only family she has nearby. We drive to Columbus in Sarah's car. both of us quiet as we process the implications of what we've learned. Vivian hasn't just manipulated Talia's marriage, she's manipulated her entire life, creating a false reality designed to generate maximum financial chaos. Talia's sister Beth lives in a suburban development that looks like it was designed by committee and built by the lowest bidder. Her house is a modest colonial with a minivan in the driveway and toys scattered across the front yard. Beth answers the door with the expression of someone who's been dealing with family drama for too long. "Jordan, I was wondering when you'd show up. Is Talia here?" "She's in the guest room, crying. Has been since she got here yesterday. We need to talk to her. It's about Vivian." Beth's expression shifts. "What about Vivian?" "She's a fraud who's been stealing from Talia's business, and she just disappeared with $50,000. "Jesus." Beth steps aside to let us in. "She's not going to want to hear this." "She needs to hear it." Talia emerges from the guest room, looking like she hasn't slept in days. Her designer clothes are wrinkled, her makeup smeared, her usual polished appearance completely undone. When she sees me, her face hardens. "What are you doing here?" "Saving you from making the biggest mistake of your life." "I already made that mistake 16 years ago." Sarah steps forward. "Mrs. Wells, my name is Sarah Harper. I'm your husband's attorney. We need to discuss Vivian Drake." "Vivian is the only friend I have left, thanks to your client." "Vivian Drake is a con artist who's been manipulating your marriage and stealing from your business." Talia laughs bitterly. "That's ridiculous. Vivian has been helping me see the truth about my marriage. The truth, according to Vivian, is that your husband is abusive and controlling. Is that accurate?" "Yes." "When did he first hit you?" Talia hesitates. He grabbed my arms during an argument last week." "Which argument?" "When I told him I wanted a divorce." "Mrs. Wells, your husband was working at the Riverside office complex until 9 p.m. on the night you claim he grabbed you. We have security footage and witness statements confirming his whereabouts." "That's impossible." Sarah pulls out the photos of the bruises. "Did you take these pictures?" "Vivian took them. She said I needed evidence." "Where did she take them?" "At her apartment, after Jordan hurt me." "Mrs. Wells, these bruises were photographed 3 weeks ago, not last week. The digital forensics prove it, and they were created at Ms. Drake's apartment, not your home?" Talia stares at the photos, her face cycling through confusion, realization, and horror. "That's not possible. I remember—" "What do you remember exactly?" "I remember being upset after arguing with Jordan. I remember Vivian comforting me. I remember her saying we should document the abuse." "Do you remember Jordan actually grabbing you?" Talia sits down heavily on Beth's couch, her hands shaking. I was so upset. Everything was so confusing. Vivian said a lot of things. Most of them lies designed to destroy your marriage and steal your money." "Where is she now?" "Gone. Disappeared yesterday with $50,000 from your business accounts." Talia breaks down completely, sobbing with the kind of raw grief that comes from realizing you've been betrayed by someone you trusted completely. Beth sits beside her, rubbing her back and shooting accusatory looks at me like this is somehow my fault. "Mrs. Wells," Sarah says gently, "we can help you recover the stolen money and rebuild your business, but we need to work together." "How can I trust anyone anymore?" Talia looks up at me with red, swollen eyes. "How can I trust you after everything I've said and done?" "I don't know if you can," I tell her honestly, "but we can start by being honest about what really happened here. I destroyed our marriage based on lies. Vivian destroyed our marriage. You were just the weapon she used." Talia cries harder, the weight of her manipulation finally becoming clear. "What do we do now?" "Now we clean up the mess," I say, falling back on the one thing I've always been good at. "And we make sure Vivian Drake pays for what she's done." For the first time in months, Talia and I are on the same side of a problem. It's not much, but it's a start. 3 weeks later, I'm standing in the parking lot of Bradley's sports bar, watching through the windows as my former friends play poker without me. It's Wednesday night, our usual game, but the empty chair at their table might as well be a gravestone marking the death of relationships I thought would last forever. Ray Kowalski's investigation turned up more than we bargained for. Vivian Drake isn't just a con artist, she's a professional marriage wrecker who's been running the same scam across 3 states for 8 years. Her real name is Victoria Drummond, and she has outstanding warrants in Illinois and Indiana for fraud, identity theft, and extortion. The FBI is now involved, tracking her through credit card records and cell phone pings as she flees toward the Canadian border with money stolen from 6 different victims. Talia's $50,000 is just the latest in a series of thefts that total nearly $500,000. but knowing the truth hasn't fixed the damage to my reputation or restored my friendships. Small towns have long memories for scandal and short attention spans for exoneration. People remember the accusations but forget the retractions. They remember the drama but ignore the resolution. Mike Sullivan still won't return my calls. Tom Bradley nods politely when I enter his bar but doesn't invite conversation. Dave Morrison referred me to his brother-in-law's accounting firm and acts like we never knew each other. The only relationship showing signs of recovery is the one that mattered most and seemed most hopeless. Talia and I have been meeting twice a week with a marriage counselor, slowly working through 16 years of accumulated resentments and the recent trauma of Vivian's manipulation. "I need to understand something," she said during our session last week. "How did you know? How did you see through her when I couldn't?" "Because I was looking at her, not listening to her. I saw someone who showed up and immediately started criticizing everything about our life. I saw someone who had no history, no real connections, no reason to care about your happiness except as a means to an end. But she seemed so supportive, so understanding. She was telling you what you wanted to hear, that your problems weren't your fault, that you deserved better, that someone else was to blame for your unhappiness. It's seductive because it's easier than taking responsibility for your own choices." Dr. Patricia Vance, our counselor, leaned forward. "Talia, what attracted you to Vivian's message?" "I felt trapped, like I'd married too young and missed out on the life I was supposed to have. Vivian made me feel like it wasn't too late to start over. And now? Now I realize I was running away from problems instead of solving them. I was blaming Jordan for my own dissatisfaction with choices I made freely. It's progress, but progress doesn't erase the past 3 months of public humiliation and lost friendships. I've learned to live with the fact that some people will always believe the first version of events they heard, regardless of evidence to the contrary. Tonight, I'm implementing the final phase of my response to this whole mess. Not revenge, exactly, but accountability. A public reckoning for everyone who abandoned ship when things got complicated. I walk into Bradley's sports bar at exactly 8 p.m., when I know the poker game will be in full swing. The conversation stops when I enter, 5 men looking up from their cards with expressions ranging from discomfort to hostility. "Evening, gentlemen." Tom Bradley stands up from behind the bar. "Jordan, I don't think this is a good idea." "Relax, Tom. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to say goodbye." I walk to the back room where Mike, Dave, and 3 other guys from our extended circle are sitting around the table that's hosted our weekly games for 8 years. The chips and cards and beer bottles look exactly the same, but the atmosphere is poisoned by 3 months of unresolved tension. "Mind if I join you for one hand?" "Jordan," Mike says carefully, "maybe we should talk privately first." "No need. What I have to say, I can say in front of everyone." I pull up a chair and sit down at the table where I've celebrated business successes, mourned family losses, and maintained friendships that I thought were built on something stronger than convenience. "Deal me in, Dave." Dave Morrison looks around the table nervously before sliding 5 cards across to me. "Jordan, about the accounting situation. Don't worry about it. I understand why you made the choices you did." "Do you?" "Sure. You protected your business and your wife's social standing by distancing yourself from a scandal. It's logical." Mike shifts in his seat. "It wasn't just business, Jordan. We were concerned about you. The way you handled the divorce seemed what? Cold, calculated. Not like the friend we knew." I pick up my cards and arrange them carefully. "You're right. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. That person was naive enough to think friendship meant something more than social convenience." "That's not fair," Tom says from the doorway. "Isn't it? When Vivian Drake started spreading lies about me, how many of you asked for my side of the story? How many of you said, 'I've known Jordan for 20 years, and this doesn't sound like him'?" Silence around the table. None of you. You all immediately assumed the worst and started protecting yourselves from association with me. "The evidence was convincing," Dave says weakly. "The evidence was fabricated by a professional con artist who's now wanted by the FBI. But even after that came out, how many of you called to apologize? How many of you acknowledged that you'd misjudged the situation?" More silence. "None of you," I answer my own question. Because admitting you were wrong would mean admitting you're the kind of people who abandon friends based on rumors. Mike throws his cards down. "So what's this about, Jordan? You want us to grovel? You want apologies?" "I don't want anything from you, Mike. I'm just making sure we all understand where things stand." "Which is where, exactly?" I lay my cards on the table, a straight flush, the best hand I've ever been dealt in this room. Which is that I've learned who my real friends are, and it's a much shorter list than I thought. I stand up and push the chips toward the center of the table. Keep the pot, gentlemen. Consider it payment for a valuable education. Walking toward the door, I pause and look back at 5 men who used to be among my closest friends. For what it's worth, I don't blame you for protecting yourselves. I blame you for not having the courage to admit you were wrong when the truth came out. Tom follows me to the parking lot. Jordan, wait. Maybe we can work through this. Work through what, Tom? The fact that you believed I was a wife-beater based on the word of someone you'd never met? The fact that you banned me from your establishment to protect your reputation? What's to work through? People make mistakes. Yes, they do. And sometimes those mistakes reveal who they really are. I get in my truck and drive home through the familiar streets of a town that no longer feels like home. The house is dark when I arrive. Talia is staying with her sister while we work through counseling, and Gina is spending the week with her grandmother. Inside, I pour myself a beer and sit at the kitchen table where this whole mess started 3 months ago. The divorce papers have been withdrawn, the criminal investigation closed, the FBI manhunt for Vivian ongoing. But the real damage, the destruction of trust and friendship, remains. My phone buzzes with a text from Jennifer Sullivan. Mike told me what happened at the bar tonight. I'm sorry about how everything went down. You deserved better from all of us. It's something, but not enough. Not nearly enough. Tomorrow I'll meet with Talia and our counselor to continue rebuilding a marriage that was nearly destroyed by outside manipulation. We might succeed, we might not. But at least we'll be making that decision based on truth instead of lies. I'll also meet with my business attorney to finalize the sale of Wells Commercial Cleaning to a regional company that's been courting me for 2 years. The offer is generous enough to let me start over somewhere else, somewhere people don't whisper about domestic violence accusations when they see me in the grocery store. Gina will have a choice about where she wants to live. At 15, she's old enough to understand that sometimes families need fresh starts in places where the past doesn't follow them around like a shadow. As for my former friends, they can keep their poker game and their comfortable assumptions about loyalty and character. They can tell themselves they did nothing wrong, that anyone would have reacted the same way, that friendship has limits that shouldn't be tested. They can believe whatever helps them sleep at night. I know what I know. When the crisis came, they chose safety over loyalty, reputation over truth, convenience over character. That's a lesson worth learning, even if it cost me more than I wanted to pay for the education. The beer tastes bitter, but not as bitter as the knowledge that the people I trusted most were the first to abandon me when abandonment seemed like the smart play. Tomorrow, I start building a life where that kind of betrayal isn't possible because I won't make the mistake of trusting people who haven't earned it. Tonight, I'll sit in my empty house and plan my exit from a town that taught me the difference between friends and acquaintances, between loyalty and convenience, between the people who stand with you and the people who stand back and watch you fall. It's a valuable education. I just wish it hadn't cost so much to learn.